Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. The revolution has begun. Hare Krishna. We have new faces in the crowd again today. Camille and Alex, Patrick, and Pranata Karun has come up from, or down, over, whatever, from New Vrindavan. And we got the old guard, here also, including Bhakti John, Dr. Damodar, Nitya, Shori, Guru Priya, and Kalindi, who's kind of back and forth between here and China. She takes a slow boat to China and a slow boat back. So it's nice. Welcome to all of you out in cyberspace. Special day today. Every day is a special day here in Radha Lane. When we're hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, we're beginning the fourth chapter, the fourth canto, rather, which is auspicious. We're going to hear about our family tree. Everybody wants to know about, forefathers and where we came from and all that stuff. We're going to hear something about that in the beginning of this canto today. Okay, Sanatana Goswami's prayer to the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Meditate on it. Hear it with love. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaik Gadrik Prada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths. You are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvan Dotitaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvadasya Vasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Mannishtadaka Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin atini chochatakara hanamuncha gadachin mam premnarit katayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Camille, you're smiling like you've done this before.
I'm trying to follow. My tongue wants to follow along, but I can't.
No, I know, but you've done this before. Okay, I want to point out, before we get into the Bhagavatam, I want to point out, Hare Krishna, Kalpaduru, Haribol. I want to point out two words that we just read. Prema Varshakshadayate. The word prema means love, not just ordinary love, but love for God, love for Krishna. And Varshakshadayate means every syllable, from every syllable pours down. So every syllable of the Srimad-Bhagavatam is transcendental. And pure love pours from it. And I'm bringing it out that point before we start, because the beginning of the 4th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam is a kind of genealogical table of the descendants of, well, among one, Devahuti, because we just got through hearing about Devahuti and the teachings of Kapila-Dev to his mother, Devahuti. Devahuti is the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, the first Manu. The Srimad-Bhagavatam is a history of the universe. It's actually a historical document, a history of the universe. But it's such a long period of time that it can only give the very, very, very essential events. Mainly the appearances and disappearances of the prominent incarnations and expansions of Krishna, and what he does in order to keep the universe on track. So here we go. 4th canto, 1st chapter, text 1. Sri Maitreya said, Swayambhuva Manu begot 3 daughters in his wife, Shatarupa. And their names were Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. Purport. First of all, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad, Sri Srimad, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, by whose order I am engaged in this Herculean task of writing commentary on the Srimad-Bhagavatam as the Bhaktivedanta purports. By His grace, we have finished 3 cantos already, and we are just trying to begin the 4th canto. By His divine grace, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Chaitanya, who began this Krishna consciousness movement of Bhagavad Dharma 500 years ago, and through His grace, let us offer our obeisances to the 6 Goswamis, and then let us offer our obeisances to Radha and Krishna, the spiritual couple who enjoy eternally in Vrindavan with their cowherd boys and damsels in Brajabhumi. Let us also offer our respectful obeisances to all the devotees and eternal servitors of the Supreme Lord. In this 4th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, there are 31 chapters. And all these chapters describe the secondary creation by Brahma and the Manus. The Supreme Lord Himself does the real creation by agitating His material energy. And then, by His order, Brahma, the first living creature in the universe, attempts to create the different planetary systems and their inhabitants, expanding the population through his progeny, like Manu and other progenitors of living entities, who work perpetually under the order of the Supreme Lord. Now I have a question. In the book, is there a long A at the end of Brahma?
Are you on the right? No.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Yeah, Brahma. A and is.
There is. If there is there one over there also? Okay, long A. That's okay. You're getting it quickly already. Well, in this version of the Vedabase, which I'm reading from, which is the latest, by the way, it doesn't. So make a note.
Well, in one it does, and in one it doesn't.
No, but what I'm saying, what I just said, this is the latest version. So both of them have to have long A. So make a note, right? And then remind me afterwards. Okay. One of my duties I have to. Because when you transfer from the original software that's used to do the writing and editing to the folio that I'm reading from. Sometimes things don't transfer over completely due to computer glitches, so we've got to correct all those things. Part of my duty, don't mind. Okay. In the first chapter of this fourth canto, there are descriptions of the 3 daughters of Swayambhuva Manu and their descendants. The next 6 chapters describe the sacrifice performed by King Daksha and how it was spoiled. Thereafter, the activities of Maharaj Dhruva are described in 5 chapters. Then, in 11 chapters, the activities of King Prithu are described. And the next 8 chapters are devoted to the activities of the Pracheta kings. As described in the first verse of this chapter, Swayambhuva Manu had 3 daughters named Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. Of these 3 daughters, one daughter, Devahuti, has already been described, along with her husband, Kardama Muni, and her son, Kapila Muni. In this chapter, the descendants of the first daughter, Akuti, will specifically be described. Swayambhuva Manu was the son of Brahma. Brahma had many other sons, but Manu's name is specifically mentioned first because he was a great devotee of the Lord. In this verse there was also the word Cha, indicating that besides the 3 daughters mentioned, Swayambhuva Manu had 2 sons. Text 2. Akuti had 2 brothers, but in spite of her brothers, King Swayambhuva Manu handed her over to Prajapati Ruchi on the condition that the son born of her returned to Manu as his son. This he did in consultation with his wife, Shatarupa. Purport. Sometimes a sonless person offers his daughter to a husband on the condition that his grandson be returned to him to be adopted as his son and inherit his property. This is called Putrika Dharma, which means that by execution of religious rituals, one gets a son, although one is sonless by one's own wife. But here we see extraordinary behavior in Manu. For in spite of his having 2 sons, he handed over his first daughter to Prajapati Ruchi on the condition that the son born of his daughter be returned to him as his son. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in this connection that King Manu knew that the Supreme Personality of Godhead would take birth from the womb of Akuti. Therefore, in spite of having 2 sons, he wanted the particular son born of Akuti because he was ambitious to have the Supreme Personality of Godhead appear as his son and grandson. Manu is the lawgiver of mankind, and since he personally executed the Putrika Dharma, we may accept that such a system may be adopted by mankind also. Thus, even though one has a son, if he wants to have a particular son from one's daughter, one may give one's daughter in charity on that condition. That is the opinion of Srila Jiva Goswami. So obviously, the culture we're speaking about is quite different than the culture we're living in right now. And the result of living in that culture was different than the result of living in the culture we're living in now, in a general sense. Because everyone was pure devotees there, and they had spiritual motives for everything that they did. And the Krishna consciousness movement is destined to re-spiritualize human society to a certain extent, not completely, it's Kali Yuga, but it will be 5,000 years from now, it will be much more influential than it is now. Let's put it that way. And we're seeing just the beginnings of the kinds of things that are going to happen in order for larger numbers of people to wake up. So welcome aboard on the ground floor of something wonderful. Okay, text 3. Ruchi, who was very powerful in his Brahminical qualifications and was appointed by one of the progenitors of the living entities, begot one son and one daughter in his wife Akuti. Purport. The word Brahma Bharchasvi is very significant. Ruchi was a Brahmana and he executed the Brahminical duties very rigidly. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Brahminical qualifications are control of the senses, control of the mind, cleanliness within and without, development of spiritual and material knowledge, simplicity, truthfulness, faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so on. There are many qualities which indicate a Brahminical personality. And it is understood that Ruchi followed all the Brahminical principles rigidly. Therefore, he is specifically mentioned as Brahma Bharchasvi, one who was born of a Brahmana father, but does not act as a Brahmana, is called one who was born of a Brahmana father, but does not act as a Brahmana, is called in Vedic language a Brahma Bandhu, and is calculated to be on the level of Shudras and women. Thus, in the Bhagavatam, we find that Mahabharata was specifically compiled by Vyasadeva for Stri Shudra Brahma Bandhu. Stri means women, Vaishya means the lower class of civilized human society, and Brahma Bandhu means persons who are born in the families of Brahmanas, but do not follow the rules and regulations carefully. All of these three classes are called less intelligent. They have no access to the study of the Vedas, which are specifically meant for persons who have acquired the Brahminical qualifications. We should not take this to mean that all women are less intelligent, because just bear in mind that Kapila Dev just enlightened Devahuti, who is his mother and therefore a woman, obviously. This restriction is based not upon any sectarian distinction, but upon qualification. The Vedic literatures cannot be understood unless one has developed the Brahminical qualifications. It is regrettable, therefore, that persons who have no Brahminical qualifications and have never been trained under a bona fide spiritual master nevertheless comment on Vedic literatures like the Srimad-Bhagavatam and other Puranas, for such persons cannot deliver their real message. Ruchi was considered a first-class Brahmana. Therefore he is mentioned here as Brahma Bharchasvi, one who has full prowess in Brahminical strength. Text 4. Of the two children born of Akuti, the male child was directly an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his name was Yagya, which is another name for Lord Vishnu. The female child was a partial incarnation of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu. Purport. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu. Here it is stated that both the Lord and Lakshmi, who were eternal consorts, appeared from Akuti simultaneously. Both the Lord and his consort are beyond this material creation, as confirmed by many authorities. Narayana Pado Bhyaktad. Therefore their eternal relationship cannot be changed, and Yagya, the boy born of Akuti, later married the goddess of fortune. Text 5. Swayambhuva Manu was very gladly brought home the beautiful boy named Yagya, and Ruchi, his son-in-law, kept with him the daughter Dakshina. Purport. Swayambhuva Manu was very glad to see that his daughter Akuti had given birth to both a boy and a girl. He was afraid that he would take one son, and that because of this his son-in-law Ruchi might be sorry. Oh, Hare Krishna. Jai Carter. Jai Lily. Hari Bol. I'll start this sentence again. Swayambhuva Manu was very glad to see that his daughter, Akuti, had given birth to both a boy and a girl. He was afraid that he would take one son, and that because of this, his son-in-law Ruchi might be sorry. Thus, when he heard that a daughter was born along with the boy, he was very glad. Ruchi, according to his promise, returned his male child to Swayambhuva Manu and decided to keep the daughter, whose name was Dakshina. One of Lord Vishnu's names is Yagya, because he is the master of the Vedas. The name Yagya comes from Yajusham Pati, which means Lord of all sacrifice. Lord of all sacrifices. In the Yajurveda, there are different ritualistic prescriptions for performing yagyas, and the beneficiary of all such yagyas is the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Therefore, it is stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.9, Yagyartat karmana. One should act, but one should perform one's prescribed duties only for the sake of Yagya or Vishnu. If one does not act for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or if one does not perform devotional service, then there will be reactions to all one's activities. It does not matter if the reaction is good or bad. If our activities are not dovetailed with the desire of the Supreme Lord, or if we do not act in Krishna consciousness, then we shall be responsible for the results of all our activities. There is always a reaction to every kind of action, but if actions are performed for yagya, there is no reaction. Thus, if one acts for yagya, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is not entangled in the material condition. For it is mentioned in the Vedas and also in Bhagavad Gita that the Vedas and the Vedic rituals are all meant for understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. From the very beginning, one should try to act in Krishna consciousness. That will free one from the reactions of material activities. So now the word karma has entered into the English lexicon, and everybody knows what karma means. So they think they know what it means. Oh, you have good karma, and this and that. But the actual science of karma is very deep, and this is just the beginning of the understanding of karma in the Vedic literatures. Every action we do has a reaction, meaning karma means I'm coming back to this material world. But here it hints at the word akarma, which means activity. Karma means activity, and a means without. So akarma means action that you do in this world that does not cause a reaction and does not cause you to come back into the material world, in another material body. It's another word for pure devotional service, akarmic activity. So the secret for that is given here, that if we do what we do dutifully and according to the laws of nature, not against the laws of nature, but purposefully for the satisfaction of Vishnu, for the satisfaction of Krishna, then we don't have to come back to this material world. That's the panacea, or the solution to all problems of material existence. Okay, text 6. The Lord of the ritualistic performance of yagya later married Dakshina, who was anxious to have the personality of Godhead as her husband. And in this wife, the Lord was also very much pleased to beget 12 children. Purport. An ideal husband and wife are generally called Lakshmi Narayana, to compare them to the Lord and the Goddess of Fortune, for it is significant that Lakshmi Narayana are forever happy as husband and wife. A wife should always remain satisfied with her husband, and a husband should always remain satisfied with his wife. In the Chanakya Shloka, the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandit, it is said, in the Chanakya Shloka, the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandit, it is said that if a husband and wife are always satisfied with one another, then the goddess of fortune automatically comes. I think that's still, I don't know if it's followed today, but the words of the vow that they say in marriage, what is it? Until death do us part? Isn't that what it says? That's the vow.
Last time I got married, that's what it said.
which comes to the point. Which comes to the point that it's not possible in this material world. It's not possible to fulfill that vow in this material world. Okay. In other words, when there is no disagreement between the husband and wife, all material opulence is present, and good children are born. Generally, according to Vedic civilization, the wife is trained to be satisfied in all conditions, and the husband, according to the Vedic instruction, is required to please the wife with sufficient food, ornaments, and clothing. Then, if they are satisfied with their mutual dealings, good children are born. In this way, the entire world can become peaceful. But unfortunately, in this age of Kali, there are no ideal husbands and wives, and therefore unwanted children are produced, and there is no peace and prosperity in the present day world. This was written in 1974, something like that. Text 7. The 12 boys born of Yagya and Dakshina were named Tosha, Pratosha, Santosha, Bhadra, Santi, Idaspati, Idma, Kavi, Vibhu, Swana, Sudeva, and Rochana. Text 8. During the time of Swayambhuva Manu, these sons all became the demigods, collectively named the Tushitas. Marichi became the head of the 7 rishis, and Yagya became the king of the demigods, Indra. So these terms, Indra, the demigods, they're actually names of posts, and different personalities takes. Well, Hare Krishna. Marcella, I'm telling you, it's getting there, isn't it? The day is coming when we're not going to be able to fit everybody in this room. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol Vishab. Okay. Yeah. So these rishis, the 7 rishis, Indra, Chandra, all these different higher personalities in the universe that maintain the natural resources, and it's reason why everything's going nicely, why the sun is in the right orbit, at 1 degree this way or 1 degree that way, and we'd either be toast or ice cubes, but everything's going on so perfectly because of the management. And the lesson is that consciousness is not only not what's imaginary, it's real, but it's also causal. Consciousness is causal. The scientists want to make consciousness just a secondary kind of like effect of the combination of chemicals or atoms or whatever. But actual consciousness is a separate energy, spiritual energy, which is the actual cause of things happening. Purport. During the life of Swayambhuva Manu, 6 kinds of living entities were generated from the demigods known as the Tushitas, from the sages headed by Marichi, and from the descendants of Yagya, king of the demigods. And all of them expanded their progeny to observe the order of the Lord to fill the universe with living entities. These 6 kinds of living entities are known as Manus, Devas, Manuputras, Angshavataras, Sureshwaras, and Rishis. Yajna, being the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, became the leader of the demigods, Indra. Text 9. Swayambhuva Manu's two sons, Priyavrata and Uttanapad, became very powerful kings, and their sons and grandsons spread all over the three worlds during that period. Text 10. My dear son, Swayambhuva Manu handed over his very dear daughter Devahuti to Kardama Muni. I have already spoken to you about them, and you have heard about them almost in full. Text 11. Swayambhuva Manu handed over his daughter Prasuti to the son of Brahma, named Daksha, who was also one of the progenitors of the living entities. The descendants of Daksha are spread throughout the three worlds. Text 12. You have already been informed about the 9 daughters of Kardama Muni, who were handed over to 9 different sages. I shall now describe the descendants of those 9 daughters. Please hear from me. Purport. The 3rd canto has already described how Kardama Muni begot 9 daughters in Devahuti, and how all the daughters were later handed over to great sages like Marichi, Atri, and Vishishta. Text 13. Kardama Muni's daughter Kala, who was married to Marichi, gave birth to 2 children, whose names were Kashyapa and Purnima. Their descendants are spread all over the world. Text 14. My dear Vidura, in other words, if you were to trace back, you going?
Yeah.
So soon? Okay, we'll miss you. We'll see you soon. Hare Krishna. Where was I? I was about to say something.
If you have to trace down your
Yes. Every one of us, now they have these programs where you can punch in your name and it can tell you, whether you came from Germany or your forefathers came from Middle East or this place or that place. Everybody's interested in this kind of thing. Now we're finding out all of us go back to Brahma in one way or another. You want a common denominator? There you go. And Brahma came from Vishnu, so we all actually came from Vishnu. There you go. My dear Vidura, so we really are related. That's why when we sit together, and we may seem to be in a disparate group, but we're not. We're souls. We're not bodies. We're souls, and we came from the same place. Hare Krishna. And if that's the peace formula. If all the religious leaders of the world could get together, hold hands in front of the public and say, by the way, we're all worshiping the same God, what would that do to the world? My dear Vidura, of the 2 sons, Kashyapa and Purnima, Purnima begot 3 children, namely Viraja, Vishwaga, and Devakulya. Of these 3, Devakulya was the water which washed the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, and which later on transformed into the Ganges of the heavenly planets. Purport. Of the 2 sons, Kashyapa and Purnima, herein Purnima's descendants are described. An elaborate description of these descendants will be given in the 6th canto. It is also understood herein that Devakulya is the presiding deity of the river Ganges, which comes down from the heavenly planets to this planet and is accepted to be sanctified because it touched the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. We'll hear about that also in later cantos. Text 15. Anasuya, the wife of Atri Muni, gave birth to 3 very famous sons, Soma, Dattatreya, and Durvasa, who were partial representations of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma. Soma was a partial representation of Lord Brahma. Dattatreya was a partial representation of Lord Vishnu. And Durvasa was a partial representation of Lord Shiva. Purport. In this verse, we find the words Atma Isha Brahma Sambhavan. Atma means the Supersoul, or Vishnu. Isha means Lord Shiva. And Brahma means the four-headed Lord Brahma. The three sons born of Anasuya, Dattatreya, Durvasa, and Soma, were born as partial representations of these three demigods. Atma is not in the category of the demigods or living entities, because he is Vishnu. Therefore, he is described as Vibhinangsha Bhutanam. The Supersoul, Vishnu, is the seed-giving father of all living entities, including Brahma and Lord Shiva. Another meaning of the word Atma may be accepted in this way. The principle, who is the Supersoul in every Atma, or one may say the soul of everyone, became manifested as Dattatreya, because the word Angsha, part and parcel, is used here. In Bhagavad Gita, the individual souls are also described as parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or Supersoul. So why not accept that Dattatreya was one of those parts? Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are also described here as parts. So why not accept all of them as ordinary individual souls? The answer is that the manifestations of Vishnu and those of the ordinary living entities are certainly all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and no one is equal to him. But among the parts and parcels, there are different categories. In the Varaha Purana, it is nicely explained that some of the parts are Shwangsa and some are Vibhinangsha. Vibhinangsha parts are called Jivas, and Shwangsa parts are in the Vishnu category. In the Jiva category, the Vibhinangsha parts and parcels, there are also gradations. That is explained in the Vishnu Purana, where it is clearly stated that the individual parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord are subject to being covered by the external energy called illusion, or Maya. Such individual parts and parcels who can travel to any part of the Lord's creation are called Sarvakata, and are suffering the pangs of material existence. They are proportionately freed from the coverings of ignorance under the material existence according to different levels of work and under different influences of the modes of material nature. For example, the sufferings of the jivas situated in the mode of goodness are less than those of jivas situated in the mode of ignorance. Pure Krishna consciousness, however, is the birthright of all living entities, because every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. The consciousness of the Lord is also in the part and parcel. And according to the proportion to which that consciousness is cleared of material dirt, the living entities are differently situated. In the Vedanta Sutra, the living entities of different gradations are compared to candles or lamps with different candle power. For example, some electric bulbs have the power of 1,000 candles, some have the power of 500 candles, some the power of 100 candles, some 50 candles, etc. But all electric bulbs have light. Light is present in every bulb, but the gradations of light are different. Similarly, there are gradations of Brahman. The Vishnu Shwangsa expansions of the Supreme Lord in different Vishnu forms are like lamps. Lord Shiva is also like a lamp, and the supreme candle power, or the 100% light, is Krishna. The Vishnu Tattva has 94%, Shiva Tattva has 84%, Lord Brahma has 78%, and the living entities are also like Brahma, but in the conditioned state, their power is still more dim. There are gradations of Brahman, and no one can deny this fact. Therefore, the words Atmesha Brahma Sambhavan indicate that Dattatreya was directly part and parcel of Vishnu, whereas Durvasa and Soma were parts and parcels of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Text 16. After hearing this, Vidura inquired from Maitreya, "My dear master, how is it that the three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who are the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of the whole creation, became the offspring of the wife of Atri Muni?" Purport. The inquisitiveness of Vidura was quite fitting, for he understood that when the Supersoul, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva all appeared through the person of Anasuya, the wife of Atri Muni, there must have been some great purpose. Otherwise, why should they have appeared in such a way? Text 17. Maitreya said, when Lord Brahma ordered Atri Muni to create generations after marrying Anasuya, Atri Muni and his wife went to perform severe austerities in the valley of the mountain known as Riksha. Text 18. In that mountain valley flows a river named Nirvindya. On the bank of the river are many ashok trees and other plants full of palasha flowers, and there is always the sweet sound of water flowing from a waterfall. The husband and wife reached that beautiful place. Text 19. There the great sage concentrated his mind by yogic breathing exercises, and thereby controlling all attachment, he remained standing on one leg only, eating nothing but air, and stood there on one leg for 100 years. This is the real yogi. What they're doing now in the big cities, hot yoga, cold yoga, dry yoga, wet yoga, this yoga, that yoga. This is real yoga. Text 20. He was thinking, may the Lord of the universe, of whom I have taken shelter, kindly be pleased to offer me a son, exactly like him. Purport. It appears that the great sage Atri Muni had no specific idea of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, he must have been conversant with the Vedic information that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the creator of the universe, from whom everything emanated, who maintains this created manifestation, and in whom the entire manifestation is conserved after dissolution. Yatova imani bhutani, Taittiriya Upanishad. The Vedic mantras give us information of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Atri Muni concentrated his mind on that Supreme Personality of Godhead, even without knowing his name, just to beg from him a child exactly on his level. This kind of devotional service, in which knowledge of God's name is lacking, is also described in Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says that 4 kinds of men with backgrounds of pious activities come to him asking for what they need. Atri Muni wanted a son exactly like the Lord, and therefore he is not supposed to have been a pure devotee, because he had a desire to be fulfilled, and that desire was material. Although he wanted a son exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this desire was material because he did not want the Personality of Godhead himself, but only a child exactly like him. If he had desired the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his child, he would have been completely free of material desires, because he would have wanted the Supreme Absolute Truth. But because he wanted a similar child, his desire was material. Thus, Atri Muni cannot be counted among the pure devotees. Text 21. While Atri Muni was engaged in these severe austerities, A blazing fire came out of his head by virtue of his breathing exercise, and that fire was seen by the three principal deities of the three worlds. Purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the fire of pranayama is mental satisfaction. That fire was perceived by the Supersoul Vishnu, and thereby Lord Brahma and Shiva also perceived it. Atri Muni, by his breathing exercise, concentrated on the Supersoul, or the Lord of the Universe. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord of the Universe is Vasudeva. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. And by the direction of Vasudeva, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva work. Therefore, on the direction of Vasudeva, both Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva perceived the severe penance adopted by Atri Muni, and thus they were pleased to come down, as stated in the next verse. Text 22. At that time, the three deities approached the hermitage of Atri Muni, accompanied by the denizens of the heavenly planets, such as the celestial beauties, the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, and Nagas. Thus they entered the ashrama of the great sage, who had become famous by his austerities. Purport. It is advised in the Vedic literatures that one should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of the universe and the Master of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. He is known as the Supersoul, and when one worships the Supersoul, all other deities, such as Brahma and Shiva, appear with Lord Vishnu because they are directed by the Supersoul. Text 23. The sage was standing on one leg, but as soon as he saw that the three deities had appeared before him, he was so pleased to see them all together that despite great difficulty, he approached them on one leg. Now that's called a vow. That's called a vow. 24. Thereafter he began to offer prayers to the three deities, who were seated on different carriers, a bull, a swan, and Garuda, and who held in their hands a drum, kusha grass, and a discus. The sage offered them his respects by falling down like a stick. Purport. Danda means a long rod, and vat means like. Before a superior, one has to fall down on the ground just like a stick. And this sort of offering of respect is called dandavat. Atri Rishi offered his respect to the three deities in that way. They were identified by their different carriers and different symbolic representations. In that connection, it is stated here that Lord Vishnu was sitting on Garuda, a big aquiline bird, and was carrying in his hand a disc. Brahma was seated on a swan and had in his hand kusha grass, and Lord Shiva was sitting on a bull and carrying in his hand a small drum called a damaru. Atri Rishi recognized them by their symbolic representations and different carriers, and thus he offered them prayers and respects. Atri Muni was greatly pleased to see that the three devas were gracious towards him. His eyes were dazzled by the effulgence of their bodies, and therefore he closed his eyes for the time being. Purport. Since the deities were smiling, he could understand that they were pleased with him. Their glaring bodily effulgence was intolerable to his eyes, so he closed them for the time being. Text 26 and 27. But since his heart was already attracted by the deities, somehow or other he gathered his senses, and with folded hands and sweet words he began to offer prayers to the predominating deities of the universe. The great sage Atri said, O Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, you have divided yourself into 3 bodies by accepting the 3 modes of material nature, as you do in every millennium for the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all of you, and beg to inquire, whom of you 3 have I called by my prayer? Purport. Atri Rishi called for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Jagat Ishvara, the Lord of the universe. The Lord must exist before the creation, otherwise, how can he be its Lord? If someone constructs a big building, this indicates that he must have existed before the building was constructed. Therefore, the Supreme Lord, the Creator of the universe, must be transcendental to the material modes of nature. But it is known that Vishnu takes charge of the mode of goodness, Brahma takes charge of the mode of passion, and Lord Shiva takes charge of the mode of ignorance. Therefore, Atri Muni said, that Jagadishvara, the Lord of the universe, must be one of you, but since 3 of you have appeared, I can't recognize whom I have called. You are all so kind. Please let me know who is actually Jagat Ishvara, the Lord of the universe. In fact, Atri Rishi was doubtful about the constitutional position of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, but he was quite certain that the Lord of the universe cannot be one of the creatures created by Maya. His very inquiry about whom he had called indicates that he was in doubt about the constitutional position of the Lord. Therefore he prayed to all 3, kindly let me know who is the transcendental Lord of the universe. He was certain, of course, that not all of them could be the Lord, but the Lord of the universe was one of the 3. Text 28. I called for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, desiring a son like him, and I thought of him only. But although he is far beyond the mental speculation of man, all 3 of you have come here. Kindly let me know how you have come, for I am greatly bewildered about this. Purport. Atri Muni was confidently aware that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord of the universe. So he prayed for the one Supreme Lord. He was surprised, therefore, that 3 of them appeared. 29. The great sage Maitreya continued, upon hearing Atri speak in that way, the 3 deities smiled, and they replied in the following sweet words. Text 30. The 3 deities told Atri Muni, Dear Brahmana, you are perfect in your determination, and therefore, as you have decided, so it will happen. It will not happen otherwise. We are all the same person upon whom you were meditating, and therefore we have all come to you. Purport. Atri Muni unspecifically thought of the personality of Godhead and the Lord of the universe, although he had no clear idea of the Lord of the universe, nor of his specific form. Mahavishnu, from whose breathing millions of universes emanate, and into whom they are again withdrawn, may be accepted as the Lord of the universe. Garbhodakshai Vishnu, from whose abdomen sprouted the lotus flower, which is the birthplace of Brahma, may also be considered the Lord of the universe. Similarly, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, who is the supersoul of all the living entities, may also be considered the Lord of the universe. Then, under the order of Kshirodakshai Vishnu, the Vishnu form within this universe, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva may also be accepted as the Lords of the universe. Vishnu is the Lord of the universe because he is its maintainer. Similarly, Brahma creates the different planetary systems and the population, so he also may be considered the Lord of the universe. Or Lord Shiva, who is ultimately the destroyer of the universe, also may be considered its Lord. Therefore, since Atri Muni did not specifically mention whom he wanted, all three, Brahma, Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, came before him. They said, since you were thinking of having a son exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the universe, your determination will be fulfilled. In other words, one's determination is fulfilled according to the strength of one's devotion. I'll repeat that again. They said, since you were thinking of having a son exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the universe, your determination will be fulfilled. In other words, one's determination is fulfilled according to the strength of one's devotion. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:25, Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti prati vrataha. If one is attached to a particular demigod, one is promoted to the abode of that demigod. If one is attached to the pitas, or forefathers, one is promoted to their planet. And similarly, if one is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, one is promoted to the abode of Lord Krishna. Atri Muni had no clear conception of the Lord of the universe. Therefore, three presiding deities, who were exactly the lords of the universe in three departments of the emotive nature, all came before him. Now, according to the strength of his determination for a son, his desire would be fulfilled by the grace of the Lord. Okay, we'll stop here. Got 30 verses in to the chapter, and we learned a lot. So let's have some reflections. I tell you, Patrick's got his hand up before I can finish my tongue wagging. Go ahead.
Could you elaborate? Could you elaborate some on the water of the Ganges? It said that I read once somewhere that like the water of the Ganges, how it washes Krishna's feet. I read somewhere that Garbo that Vishnu in this universe reached up and poked a hole through the casing, and that dropped water down, and then it's where Shiva's at, and it comes down and flows from there. So was it washed?
You got the answer.
But so did it wash that Vishnu, like the Garbo? I can't remember the name, but the Vishnu.
Well, first of all, a very good question, by the way.
I'm just trying to map it out.
Yeah, you're a mapper. As well you should be. Take us along with you with your questions. It's fantastic. First of all of these personalities of Godhead are the same person. That's the first thing to get into your mind. They're all the same person. Krishna expands unlimitedly. He's the Supreme Being. We are limited, and he is unlimited. So, but the expansions, his different expansions, appear in a little different ways to perform different pastimes to satisfy the desires of different devotees. There are eternal devotees of each of the forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is one, the same Krishna. But he appears in different forms, in different times, in different places, in order to perform specific things, or acts or events, to either protect his devotees or to diminish the influence of demoniac forces, or sometimes just to correct the time-worn culture of that place and that time. So the specific expansion of Krishna, who came and poked his toe through the covers of the universe, was known as Vamanadev. And he came at a time when the demoniac generations of living beings had taken control of the universe. Just in case you didn't notice, sometimes demoniac people take control of things. Well, I won't pass any comments about that. But it's true. Sometimes there are pious rulers and sometimes there are impious rulers. And sometimes the people who are pious of the world, they have to stand up and give it to the impious ruler. That happened when Hitler came. You know, he was doing some real nasty stuff. And the whole world stepped up and said, no. And then that was it. So like that, it's always been like that. It's the nature of this world that there are souls who want to act outside of the laws of nature, and there are souls who want to live according to the laws of nature. So at that time, Bali Maharaj, who was in the family of Prahlad Maharaj, who was born of Hiranyakashipu, who was the biggest demon of the universe at that time, Bali Maharaj inherited from his father, who was the father of, or the son of Prahlad Maharaj, the kingdom of the asuras rather. And he marched right into Indra's kingdom and took over. And not a shot was fired. Nothing, he walked right in. The reason he did that was because the demigods went to Vishnu. But this is the difference between the asuras and the suras. The divine inspired persons and the demoniac inspired persons. The atheists and the theists. The one, when they're in trouble, they'll go to God for shelter and for advice and for solutions to their problems. Whereas the demoniac, they will go to their own intelligence or their own power, their own strength. The modern day scientists are in that category. They're trying to solve the problems of material existence through the strength of their own intelligence or the extension of their own senses by their modern inventions. So Krishna decided to come and settle the situation. So he came in the form of a little dwarf, not dwarf in the sense of what we see nowadays, dwarf, but in this very small size, Brahmana, the most beautiful form. And he approached Bali Maharaj, who was sitting on the throne of Indra, having just walked into Indra's kingdom and just taken over. And Bali Maharaj, because he was the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, was very pious, very religious. So even though he was in charge of the demoniac species, he was still very pious because of his association with Prahlad Maharaj. So, therefore, he was very charitable by nature. And whenever a Brahmana came to him to ask anything, he would immediately give. So Brahmana walks up to him, and everybody was amazed at this beauty of this Vamana, the Brahmana. And Shukracharya was the spiritual master of Bali. And it was due to the devotion that he had toward Shukracharya, that the demons got the power to walk into the demigod's place without firing a shot. So Shukracharya was very smart. He knew that this was Vishnu. So when Vishnu came, when Vamana came and asked Bali Maharaj, or he approached him, and Bali Maharaj says, "Oh, you're so beautiful, you're a Brahmana, what do you want? I'll give you anything. Do you want me? Do you want my kingdom? What do you want? I'll give you anything." So pious. And Vamana said, "I don't need very much, I'm simple. I just need 3 steps of land." And he was short, so 3 steps wasn't very much. So then Shukracharya said, "Oh my God, he's going to take away everything." And because he was not a pure devotee spiritual master, he was what is called a seminal or a family spiritual master. He was being maintained by Bali Maharaj. So he thought, hey, if he takes everything away, then Bali Maharaj won't have anything to give to me, and then I'll become poor or poverty-stricken. So he advised Bali, he said, "Don't do it. This is Vishnu, and he's going to take everything from you." And Bali Maharaj, because of the association of Prahlad Maharaj, he was very pious, very religious, and he says, "You're asking me not to give to Vishnu, when in fact you've taught me all my life that I'm supposed to perform sacrifices to Yajna? I reject you. Yes, of course I'll give you anything you like. Take your 3 steps of land." So then Vamana expanded his form and took 1 step, half the universe. The 2nd step poked his hole through the cover of the universe, and the causal ocean, which is there on the outside of the universe, came in through that hole, and washed his feet as it came into the universe, and it flowed down through the whole universe. That's the Ganges.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I heard that story, but I didn't know that's what happened when he was taking his steps. It didn't
Well,
say that.
there you got it. Now you got the full story. Well, as full as I can tell it. There's no end to the story, to these stories. Just wait, patient. So, yeah. So Vamana says, "You promised me 3 steps. And in case you didn't notice, I just took 2 steps and took the whole universe. So there's nothing left for my 3rd step. Where do you want me to put my 3rd step?" And he said, "Please, you put it on my head. I'm yours." And Vamana became very happy. And he put his foot on his head, but then he arrested him. Because he was actually, he took over the universe unlawfully, against the laws. Anyway, it was a whole pastime. Many things had happened, but eventually, Bali Maharaj was given his own planet, and he and his family, including Prahlad Maharaj, they lived there forever, or at least till the end of the creation. So that was the story of how the Ganges came into existence. Hare Krishna. Yes.
I have 2 questions.
Hannah's got 2 questions.
The first question you have to answer before I ask the second one, though. Please. So the first one is...
No, you have to.
Can you? Can you?
have to.
Sorry.
Training.
Is this...
Take a little
It's
bit.
the
It's a
second one.
lifetime project.
The second question has nothing to do with the first. Oh, Krishna. You up for that project?
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Are you up to it?
I am.
Okay. Now that that's settled, go ahead and ask your question.
The first one, is it constantly flowing? Whenever he poked his hole, does it ever stop flowing?
No.
Okay.
Next.
Next one was, we read in the first chapter of the 4th canto that Krishna had children whenever he came to the earth. So my question is it in the rasas in the spiritual world where there's parental love, we know that devotees can be parents of Krishna, but can Krishna be a parent of the devotee in the spiritual world like he was in the material world?
Yes, he does, but there's no actual rasa where Krishna is the father in the spiritual world, because the relationship between the father and the son is the son's going, give me, give me, give me. So that's not actually a rasa. It's spiritual rasa. It's material. It's selfish. So therefore that rasa is not there. There are personalities who are acting like sons of Krishna, but they consider themselves to be servants of Krishna. It's actually dasya ras. But Krishna's mother and father, Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, they are always trying to give to Krishna. So that proves that the taste, the highest taste, is to give. I mean, we were taught by our mothers, what isn't it? I mean, my mother taught me. I think maybe every mother taught. Better to give than to receive. If your mother didn't tell you that, it's a good thing you're here, because you got special mercy. It's always better. It feels better to give than to receive. So therefore, that rasa isn't an eternal rasa. We want to give to Krishna. Yes, Lily has a question. Go ahead. Go for it.
All right. So I was wondering, because we read about how Atri Muni saw all three of them right in front of him, but he wasn't considered a pure devotee, even though he had that whole experience. And I was wondering exactly why he wasn't considered pure. And I kind of had a second part, like, what does it mean to be a pure devotee?
I'll tell you, they're coming up with heavy-duty questions today. 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, turn it around. We want to get one of the thing with the, turn it around and show everybody. We're going to give you a little, a little darshan of everybody that's here today, just to show you that we're all progressive. Hare Krishna. Okay, everybody. Okay, first question. Why wasn't Atri a pure devotee? Well, the answer was given in the text. Do you remember?
Because he wanted a son like the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
Correct.
But not exactly.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's because he wasn't sure of the form of the Personality of Godhead. Okay. So if you want to be a pure devotee of the Lord, then you have to know who it is that you're worshiping. So that's the first answer. Okay. And then the other answers? What it means to be a pure devotee?
So you have to know?
Well, not only do you have to know, but you have to do what you're doing, whatever you're doing, only for the pleasure of Krishna. If you're doing it for yourself or you're doing it for any other purpose, then for pleasing Krishna, then it's not pure devotional service. Haribol, Shvetadvip, Hare Krishna. See you. But it's not the end of the world if you're not a pure devotee, but you're a devotee and you worship Krishna, because by the association of Krishna, your heart's desires become purified, and eventually you come to that position by the influence of Krishna. You come to that standard. So there's a verse, akama sarva kamova moksha karma udaradi. It's in the second canto of the Bhagavatam. It says, whether one is full of desire, material desires, or free from material desires, or desiring to be free from material desires, you should worship Krishna. Because Krishna, he has the goods. He owns everything. Okay? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your questions. Nice question. Okay. Getting close to 6 o'clock. The program's going to go on in the temple room, so we're going to stop here. We thank everyone for being here. Lovely questions. They're getting better and better, and that is a good sign. So let's keep the energy going. Keep the energy flowing. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.